This is going to be an easy one. Steve, how do you define victory?
I wish I could remember those beautiful lines from the Conan movie, actually. You all know the ones I mean. Victory, I want to talk about victory not just in the generic. I've talked about Sigur before. I want to talk about victory in a specific context. I want to talk about it in the context of victory for our faith and our folk. Victory is ensuring, first of all, that we survive, that we remain an identifiable, powerful, self-determining group of men and women united by blood and culture. This will only happen if we awaken. The awakening is everything. The three horns that are the symbol of the AFA. To me, one of those horns stands for awakening. The Oathrerir, the Volksrerir, the stirring of the folk. We must awaken. We must realize, first of all, that we are a people, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We must remember that as a people, we have a right to determine who we are. We have a right to assert ourselves properly. Once we are awakened, then we must become empowered. This empowerment is the sort of thing we've been talking about with the issue of money, but that's only a part of it. We must have an awakening that brings us spiritual power, which can then be transformed into a multitude of various forms. But again, we must have a psychic place in the world. There must be room in the world for us and for our opinions, for the things that we hold dear. We must establish these. We must legitimize these. We must do this by the force of our will and our dedication. And then finally, we must ensure the long-term survival of all that we hold dear. Our folk, our faith, for that matter, the very planet on which we live. And ultimately, in the long run, generations from now, that will only happen if we get out of the cradle. And the earth is the cradle. Tonight, when those stars come out, and you look up, and you see stars that you don't see in the city. You see the Milky Way for the first time maybe since you were a kid. Someday, maybe long, long after we're gone, I want Asa Truor, Eurofolk, out there to be looking back at a little Class G star with some rocks running around it and say, that's where it started. That's where we came from. And then they're going to pass the horn and give forth.
Helga, what do you think? How do you define victory?
My vision of victory for our community is more personal and less far-reaching. I'm kind of in awe of that.
Hard act to follow.
Yeah.
I read a lot of science fiction as a kid.
To me, I honestly think that in a lot of ways this faith will never be one of the big three, so to speak. It's a difficult path. It's a path that requires us to take a whole lot of personal responsibilities on our shoulders and not give it up to God or whatever. It's a hard path to walk, and I think that it will always be, to some degree, a path that a minority of people in the world at large choose. But to me, victory is a dispelling of the ignorance. That if I say I'm Asa True, I don't just get a blank look. That if I say I'm a devout heathen, people don't think I just uttered a completely inexplicable oxymoron. That when I say I'm not Christian, people don't say, so you don't think Jesus was the Son of God? To me, an understanding and an accepting of our faith and our folkway as a valid expression of faith in ourself, something where not everyone you know may be Asa True, but when you meet one, you're like, oh, that's what Asa True is. the idea that this is out here so that people who are called to it can find it, so that we have a voice in our governments and our future. To me, that's victory, is when we're known and accepted, even on a small scale.
Correct. Stefan, what do you think? How do you define victory?
Victory, for me, will be when we have Hofs and temples in every state, when people will look and see a Thor's hammer around a person's neck and think, oh, he's also true. When our children are not ostracized or made fun of in school because they're heathen. When people will look at Marvel Comics and see a Thor comic book and think, that's extremely poor taste. When there's a general awareness, when there's a recognizable definition of this religion that's commonly known among everyone, that will be victory. You know, Helga said she doesn't think that we're ever going to be part of the big three. I don't think that we were ever meant to be part of the big three, but I think that we will be as large and we will be as well known, because to be honest with you, I really believe sincerely that the big three are going to become something that's going to fade into the background, especially Christianity. I see people, more and more people leaving Christianity every single day. The only thing that I feel is the only big religion that's growing right now is Islam. And I think Islam is going to be the biggest threat to our folk than Christianity ever was. So it's the future is going to be very challenging for our folk. But if we stay focused and stay firm in our beliefs, I think we'll achieve victory.
Any comments, any questions? Well, thank our guests here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you guys.